This is Monday with the Mayor. Today we're in Ferdinand with Town Manager Chris James. Chris, how are things in Ferdinand?
Very busy right now, Jurnee. We've got, as we talked last month, a lot of things were on the verge of happening, and we've kind of crossed that threshold of verge to actuality. A lot of things going on. As you noticed when you came into town today, the West 23rd Street project is firing along pretty much on all cylinders. They started that up right at the tail end of June. They did a lot of the curb cutting, the 2 weeks between the end of Heimat Fest and the 4th of July holiday, in that window there. They did a lot of street cutting, the initial prep work, and since that point in time, we've got one lane of traffic. It is one way heading westbound. If you come off of 162, you can make a turn and go back 23rd Street. If you come off of the bypass and try to come eastward, then you're basically going the wrong way on a one-way street, and it's not advised to do that. But that is the way it was set up by our contractor to allow the residents who live on 23rd Street so that they have some ingress egress points so they can literally get out of their homes and get to where they need to, whether it's work, school, the grocery store, whatever the case may be. So they've been very good. They went door to door, met with all of the residents and let them know we're going to be doing this, this, and this in an approximate order. Here's what you can expect. And they've kept them pretty much in tune with where things are going. Haven't really heard a lot of commentary from the residents, so I take that as a positive that they've adapted to I don't know if turmoil is quite the right word, but the change, the ever-changing road conditions on West 23rd. But they've started really busting up a lot of the concrete. One of their subcontractors is going to have a pulverizing unit out at our co-op location, which is just off of 23rd and the bypass. And as they load up the concrete chunks, those will be taken out there and run through the pulverizer and turned into gravel. And then once the actual road bed is cleared of the old concrete, all of that reconfigured concrete, the new gravel, that becomes the road bed for the actual asphalt street that will be put into place as we move through the summer. And everything is moving along, I think, on schedule, and by mid-September, give or take a couple of days, the project is set to be completed. So they're going to really start. They've been busy already. I think the speed will pick up a little bit more in terms of busyness as they get things moving along. But it's moving in a positive direction, and by mid-September, we'll have a nice brand new 23rd Street, West 23rd Street for the residents to use, and then folks to access if they want to take a shortcut to one of the factories or to the co-op side or coming into town. They'll have something very nice to drive on for a long time to come.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the street projects aren't the only thing you guys have been working on. You've just finished up the resurfacing at the parks.
Yes, down at 5th Street Park, this was something that had been planned on from last year. Kinetic Recreation came in. It was supposed to have, the way the original schedule was put together, it was going to be a June-only activity. It actually stretched out June into July, partly because of weather issues and partly they had other projects where they had people called away on, so they weren't able to be as timely with certain things. They did the two smaller sections first, and those were a big hit, and then the large section just last week was reopened for use again. Once the rubber pellets and everything, once it is formed and in place, it takes a week or so for it to cure. Again, weather could speed that up or slow it down. So we erred on the side of making sure it was good and firm before we opened things up. But we took the safety fencing down, and the kids have been enjoying that pretty much from the get-go. I don't think they were just right there waiting for the fence to come down, but there was already activity on there that afternoon once it was done. This is a solid surface. What we had before was they were rubber pads, squares, and they did very well, but over the years with the weather and the usage, you started to get a lot of seams opening up, and that actually works against the safety factor. And the park department, they did their research in finding kinetic, and they came in, this is literally a poured rubber surface. I think they take a combination of pellets and other mixture. It's superheated and it turns into just a poured surface. It's very springy, so it's easier as you walk or run on it. You've got more bounce to your step. And if the kids do happen to fall off of something or fall down when they're playing chase or tag or something, there's a lot more give to the surface, so they're able to bounce right back up, even more than kids do anyway, and move on about their business. But it has a very good spring to it. Just as you walk across it, it feels very nice.
Yeah, you can feel the difference.
Very much so. You go from what was a pretty firm rubber mat to more of a bouncy surface. It's much improved, and folks will notice it as they get out and bring the kids or the grandkids. They'll be able to tell it as well, and it's just easier wear and tear on the body, and this is something that's going to last for many years as well. It's just the technology of that type of rubberization continues to advance, and we're happy to be a beneficiary of some of this latest technology here in Ferdinand.
Yeah, like you said, it's a really great upgrade. I think some of the parents and grandparents might enjoy it even more
Definitely.
after chasing after them.
Yes.
And then you have a transformer project going on. You guys are rerouting, doing upgrades. How's that been?
Our electric substation, we've got the original substation and a newer one. The original dates back over 60 years from when it was put into place. It has probably, in most regards, far exceeded its planned lifespan. Through routine maintenance and just taking care of it over the years, we've been able to really stretch it out. But within the past year, as we've brought back Steve Becker as our utility superintendent, just doing normal maintenance and checking things out, seeing what's what and what shape is it in. We found some issues with the substation. The two substations we have different levels of electricity, so we're not in a position that if we needed to do a planned outage that we can kind of throw a master switch and route everything from one to the other. They're not compatible. And then just the age of the unit. There's a lot of parts that we did a planned shutdown a couple of months ago, replaced some things, tested some other spots, found some trouble areas, and then between Councilman Ron Wire, whose family business is electric, and Steve, they've put their heads together. They've worked with a couple of consultants that we've used in the past for the town for electrical purposes to figure out what are the steps that we need to take to upgrade the substation. In the last week, we've had what is called a step-down transformer delivered. It still has a few things it needs to be tweaked on. Once that happens in the next couple of weeks, we'll begin the transition process of routing the electric from the old substation to the step-down transformer. Once that phase is done, then we go in, and it'll be partly us, but partly an actual company that's very skilled and trained in this type of work. They're going to come in and basically redo the substation. And once that work is done, both substations will be compatible for electric. So if we do have to have some type of planned outage, whether it's to do work at the substation or to do some other electric work, we will be able to literally throw a switch and transition the load from one to the other so that we don't have to take down a large section of town's electricity as we did a couple of months ago with the planned outage for multiple hours. There may be some smaller outages as some of the transition goes forward. Those will be much shorter in duration, and once we have a schedule of when and if, we'll put the word out so folks are expecting it and they don't get caught by surprise. But this is work that, as they kind of investigated and really dug into the substation, it was more a matter of when we would have a major issue with the sub as opposed to if. And for the amount of town that powers, we couldn't take the chance of just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping that today's not the day, whether through storm-related activity or just a part failing and causing it to go down and leaving a large chunk of town without power. We couldn't take that chance, and so we've started the steps to prevent that from happening as much as possible. Mother Nature can always do her thing with a well-placed lightning bolt. You can only do so much for that, but for things where there's preventative maintenance involved, we're trying to be ahead of the curve as much as we can, get the sub transition to the step-down unit, get everything upgraded and compatible with the other substation, which is about 30 years old, so that we're in sync for years to come. And if we have to shift power from one to the other, we'll be able to without too much fancy footwork. So that's where we stand.
So that will bring them to the same level, and then all the work is going to be done primarily at the substations, right? There's not going to be any branching off?
No, most of the work will be on site in terms of transitioning, and I'm oversimplifying some of this because my knowledge of electricity is flip the switch, the lights come on or not. And then it's either because the bulb's burned out or there's no power coming. But they will transition power lines and the feed sources from the substation to the step-down transformer. And once all of that is done, then they'll get in and really rework, almost make from scratch a new substation. And then we can take the wiring, put it back in place, and then everything is compatible. And then we'll be good to go for decades to come, and just continue with the routine maintenance, make sure the transformers within the unit are properly oiled and everything is functioning correctly, and then just go from there.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I think we're pretty good right now. It's very busy, and we're going to stay busy through the summer. The West 23rd Street project should be done mid-September. The ADA curb replacement project, which is an NDOT project as opposed to a Town of Ferdinand project, that is also moving forward. They are to be done by October 1st with what they call substantial completion. November 1st is the actual date that they need to be done with it. So that's also going on, starting on the south side of town, working up to 16th Street and then back down the east side, and then the substation work. So all hands are on deck. And just the normal summer projects and work that we do, we're keeping very busy, but it's a good busy.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, this has been Monday with the Mayor. We're here in Ferdinand with Town Manager Chris James. I'm Jurnee Davis.